This is IGN. A reinvigorating sequel for the series that leaves no doubt about its place in the RPG pantheon. This is your IGN review of Dragon Age: The Veilguard by Leanna Hafer. As I excitedly slashed, blasted, wooed, looted, and delved my way through the stunning and enthralling world of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, I kept having one thought. Wait, BioWare made this? 2024 BioWare? With this game coming in the wake of the debacle that was Anthem, itself preceded by Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda, which were both merely alright in hindsight, I wasn't sure these former masters of the role-playing game craft could make a game like this anymore. But putting together my team of interesting and endearing companions to save the world felt like getting the old band back together, in more ways than one. Veilguard's level design was one of the first things that jumped out at me, reminding me of the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic more than anything. The slick, looping corridors with just enough little nooks to discover are cleverly interconnected in a way that proves how a BioWare-style RPG gains a lot and loses almost nothing by ditching the idea of a fully open world. Across the board, the environment art is really jaw-dropping, from the desolate peaks of Kal Sharok to the surreal, floating elven ruins in Arlethan Forest. I was very pleased with the character designs too. The armor and outfits are fabulous. I spent more than an hour in the character creator like I usually do, and came out with a version of our protagonist, Rook, who delighted me every time she was in frame. This might be some of the best looking hair I've seen in a video game. Veilguard's combat is definitely a refinement of what we saw in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. BioWare has committed fully to the fast-paced style and refined it to a point that I enjoy it quite a bit. And the highlights of combat are definitely the boss fights, which offer a really satisfying challenge even on the default difficulty. While standard mob fights with Darkspawn or Venatori cultists eventually got a little repetitive after 90+ hours, going up against a high dragon never failed to get my blood pumping, as I had to carefully study attack patterns and think on my feet. As a continuation of the Dragon Age series, Veilguard does feel a little disconnected from where we left off a decade ago. If you were expecting decisions from previous games in the series to carry over, I'm sorry to say they've never mattered less. The pacing early on is kind of weird too, and I felt like I could practically smell the rewrites. For example, it's hilarious that no one ever says the word Veilguard out loud across the 100 hours I played of this dialogue-packed campaign, exposing a last-minute marketing pivot for what it was. But it doesn't take too long for things to get on a good track story-wise, and when they do, they stay on it. Aside from one huge choice you'll make early on, the most interesting bits of narrative design don't come until the very end of Veilguard's story. And again, it's hard to dig into this too much without spoiling something, but the finale is also very much in the spirit of Mass Effect 2, which had an ending that, up until now, may have been the best series of complex, consequential choices ever featured in an RPG. The sacrifices I had to make in the closing hours hurt. The wise decisions I made paid off, and I even got the chance to dramatically flick an ace out of my sleeve at the last moment, specifically because I took a very thorough and careful approach to everything leading up to it. That felt like the ultimate reward. Throughout all of that, the cinematic flair is off the charts, proving that BioWare is unmatched in the RPG world in that discipline. So much of the best stuff I can't even tell you about, but parts of it felt like watching a big-budget fantasy movie in the best ways. A triumphant and effective, if not quite iconic, score elevates these moments further. Dragon Age: The Veilguard refreshes and reinvigorates a storied series that stumbled through its middle years, and leaves no doubt that it deserves its place in the RPG pantheon. The next Mass Effect is going to have a very tough act to follow, which is not something I ever imagined I'd be saying before I got swept away on this adventure. Enjoyable action combat, a fantastic cast of allies with sweeping story arcs all their own, top-notch cinematics, and moving, nuanced character writing are the wings on which this triumphant dragon soars, pulling out all the stops in a whirlwind tour of Northern Thedas, and capping it with a terrific finale that's built on memorably tough choices and consequences. If we never get another Dragon Age, at least it got to go out on a high note. Dragon Age: The Veilguard's IGN score? 9 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest updates on Dragon Age: The Veilguard, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.